We say, partner.
Here we
Plus
go.
Kevin, more
More
tech from UTECIT.com, right?
You got it. I got to tell you, Kevin, I'm going to be on my best behavior today.
It's important that you are.
I am.
Because we've got the heavy hitters in here.
I know.
You know, the advantage of us doing our own show like this, right, is we
Right.
get to invite people we admire, people we like. And as a kid growing up, what'd you want to be?
Fireman, police officer, those kind of
Firemen's
things.
the wrong answer with these guys. I mean, those guys are a waste of time. They just get in our way. The true kid growing up always wanted to be a police officer, right?
Got it. Yeah,
And we loved the uniform. We respected the heck out of them and just admired them, right?
absolutely.
So being our own podcast, getting to choose what we get to do. Let's introduce our guest today and
Brighton's
who do we bring
finest.
on? Brighton's finest, Livingston County's finest, right?
There we go.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So we got Chief Rob Bradford here from the Brighton PD, and then not to be outdone, but Sheriff Mike Murphy from Livingston County, right?
It's awesome.
So welcome, guys. Thank you for taking time out of the day to come speak with us. We appreciate. We know you're busy and a lot of important things going on. Unlike us, we just get to sit around and talk. And
It's a great life.
yes, but you guys actually do real work, so we appreciate it. Rob, just real quickly, tell us. You've been a police chief here for, 4 years now, but you've been in the department for a long time, haven't you?
Been here since '96. I started as a reserve officer, worked my way all the way up. Almost 5 years now as chief, and loving every minute of it. Wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, you got a great staff down there, great department. Yeah, I'm partial, full disclosure, right? I live here in Brighton, and I get to do a ride around once in a while with the guys, and love the staff down there. But
Can we clarify that?
what's that?
Are you in the back?
He's not in the. He hasn't been in the back yet. That I know of.
Handcuffs or no handcuffs?
Yeah.
Yeah. They let me sit in the front, and I'm unencumbered. My wrists aren't tied together, but
All right.
We have to move the big buttons out of the way though when he gets in the car.
once in a while they'll let me put on lights and sirens in the parking
Very
lot.
nice.
But that's fun. But no, you got a great staff there, and I admire what you guys do every day and how you built that. How we doing on staffing?
So right now we're doing pretty good on staffing. We just got another officer. I would say 8 years ago we were at 18. Now we're at 17. So we're starting to come back. We're having to be a little more creative in how we use our manpower. Perfect example is the officer we just hired. He's going to be a uniform detective. So he's going to help out the detective when the detective's busy, but when he's not, back on the road. So we're going to basically kill two birds with one stone.
Mm-hmm. Good. And then Murph, the sheriff there, I think I've seen some new faces kind of coming and going. Or how we doing with staffing? And
Yeah, so on the field services side, so my office is really split up into two, right? So I've got the jail, and then I've got what we call field services, and that's what people think about when they think about law enforcement. So on the field services side, we're full. However, we've got two folks retiring after the first of the year, so that'll put us two down. We've got some interviews in the hopper, but I'm sure the chief will tell you the same thing. It used to be back when we got in the business 30 plus years ago, if there was one opening, you'd probably get 100 applications.
Wow.
Today, you might have one opening and get one application for a lot of reasons. But anyways, that's kind of where we're at today. On the jail side of the house, I just swore in a gal yesterday, and that puts me at 5 down. So we're struggling a little bit on the correction side, but we'll get there. And I got the same thing there too. So we did my office back in 1996 did a huge hire on both sides of the house, and those people are due now retirement, right? So it was great for that 25, 6, 7, 8 years,
Right.
but now we're gonna pay for it. So.
yeah, and we should say you started out too at the bottom of the ranks, right? At the sheriff's department, and worked your way up. And when did you come to the county?
Yeah, so I came in, I worked for a couple small PDs before coming over to the sheriff's office, and I hired in 1990 into corrections. And I worked my way up. I went to the field services side and got promoted. And, my goal when I walked in the door pretty much was to run for sheriff, and, God willing, my wish came true. So here we are.
Heck of a run.
So interesting story. I don't know if Murph remembers this, but he actually was part of my interview panel for the sheriff's department. And I remember specifically he asked me if I was to offer you a job today and Brighton was to offer you a job today, where would you go? Because I was a reserve at Brighton. And I said Brighton. And I got actually hired the next week.
And that's why we didn't hire. You know, it's funny you say that, but in all seriousness, there is that's an important question, because as the chief will tell you, there is a ton of investment, right?
And that's what it was.
Whenever you hire somebody, it's an investment, right? Your people are your biggest asset. But for us, if you think about the amount of training, the amount of equipment that we have to supply, you know, you're probably 3 to 5 years before you start getting return on your investment, quite frankly.
Really?
So, you know, if you hire somebody and they're going to scoot out in, you know, 2 or 3 months or 2 years, that's not good for us.
What are you looking for in a candidate? I mean, because that's a real good point. I never thought of that. I mean, when you begin to think about that investment, that is significant, especially on the training side.
Yeah, so I'll just speak for me. Listen, if anybody tells you that law enforcement is rocket science, they're blowing smoke up your behind. I mean, it's truly, it's not. Yes, it's technical, but it's not. Again, it's not rocket science. If I've got somebody that's got some good life experience, if I've got somebody that's a good communicator, those are huge right there, right? Because we're dealing with people all day long. We're dealing with individuals, and if you're not relatable and you can't communicate with them and you don't have some life experiences to help you through that, then it's going to be a tough road for you.
Yeah, and I would answer that similarly. It's communication. They've got to be able to communicate, but obviously walk and chew gum at the same time too. So multitasking, that's big. We've actually we've got guys right now that are in training right now on interviewing techniques for new hires. So they're doing a class right now. So we're trying to find creative ways, but the problem is so is every other department.
Sure.
And we're competing against each other for the same two people that are looking for the job. So it's been a challenge for sure.
And it's interesting too, because if you think about, you know, folks our age, you know, we grew up in face-to-face conversation, so it really wasn't all that.
Right.
Some people are better at it than others, obviously, right? But in today's world, that's not really how we communicate. You know, we communicate via text or email or whatever. So
Podcast.
Yeah, podcast, right? But at least we're talking. At least there's video out there. You know, unfortunately, a lot of these, I'll call them kids, getting into the profession today, they've never really had experience with face-to-face conversation. And that's a struggle. You know, we don't investigate crimes by text.
Right.
You know, that's not how it works.
Right. Times change. You know, I remember one of our officers. He's a sergeant now. I remember when I was training him, he'd never driven a rear-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was only front-wheel drive. Now the new officers, they've never driven a stick, so they don't know how to drive sticks. So you know, as times changes, you know, we have to change our techniques as to how we're hiring people and what we're looking for. So, but communication is big. So it's like Murph said, the texting, you know, everybody does everything virtually now.
So just stick, you know, I like to stick on this for a little bit. Where are you finding the candidates? You know, it's the first time we've met. I have no idea where you would go to find candidates.
Police Academy is one. You know, there's multiple
Not
academies.
the movie or the TV show, right?
But there's several police academies throughout the state. You know, our last hire we just got from North Carolina. He was a Heartland native. He went to Heartland High School, but he moved down to North Carolina 10 years ago because he couldn't get hired here 10 years ago. Now you can get hired, you know, if you can do the job, you can get hired just about anywhere. So, but he reapplied, and his family's, like I said, it's local. The Heartland Septic is their family. So, great guy, experience, and you just never know where you're going to get him from.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you know, there's other agencies. We have an Explorer group. That's kids 14 to 20 that think they want to go into the profession, so it gives them a little bit of a feel. And as a matter of fact, we've got two. I take that back. We've got 3 that have actually come up through that program, which has been great for us. But that particular program, at least in my view, is a win no matter what, because if we can expose kids to the job, the profession, and they choose not to do that, that's a win too, right? Because you're not spending a bunch of time, energy, effort, and money in college and then find out, oh, hey, this really isn't what I want to do. But to the Chief's point, the people are a lot more savvy today than they ever used to be too. Not too many people thought about going and actually searching for an agency that they wanted to work for, because again, when we grew up, it was, you better take the job that you get offered, because you don't know when the next offer is coming along, right? Today, today's recruits and even folks that have, I would say, less than 5 years on the job, they're very in tune with the various agencies, the culture in that agency, the pay, the benefits, the community, which are all things that they look factor into. Exactly right. And again, back when we started, it was, you take whatever comes along.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I look at you guys, you grew up in the business, right? You started from, one of your first or second jobs out of school, right? And you and you moved up through the ranks, and there's a lot of your peers, brothers and sisters, and that came up through that in the departments. Does it bother you, or does it hurt you to see that we're struggling to find good candidates? Is it something we've done as a community that we're not encouraging young folks to go do this now, or is it what we're all facing in business, that there's just not enough good people out there right now for whatever reason?
I think you're getting that in every profession. It's not just law enforcement, because you drive around, there's help wanted signs everywhere, and it's a nationwide problem. But it doesn't bother me because I think what we're finding out, even though we're only getting a few, most of us, well, at least here in Livingston County, I don't know about the other departments, but at least here, if I lose one body, I can absorb that, and we can wait till we get the right candidate. And that's what we've been trying to do. So it hasn't hurt us too much, but I could see some departments, if they lost half their force, through retirements, they'd be in trouble. And then the people that you're looking at hiring may not be the best people, and you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you're hiring the best, most qualified people to do this job.
Yeah, because it takes a certain temperament, right? It's just not something everybody can do. It's the communication, the interaction that.
Yeah, so I'll take just a little bit different tact on that. I agree with everything that the chief said, but this profession, I think more than most, everybody's looking for help, but we've been somehow villainized or demonized, right? And where in my mind it still is a very noble profession, and I hope that it will be. With the media today, it's kind of ironic that here we are on social media, right? But with the media today and everything being instant, and you've got your basement dwellers that can post stuff and snipe people, from all over. Our profession has gone through that. So if you think about somebody that wants to be in law enforcement, 20-something, and they think, okay, wait a minute, so the public's going to hate me, which is not true, by the way, but the public's going to hate me. My boss is always up my backside. Everything that I do and say is going to be on video and or audio for this pay. Why would I do that, right? And it truly is a calling, but those things start to weigh on the decision making, and I think that has hurt our candidate pool maybe a little bit more than other professions.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. What you guys go through every day, and it's interesting to see why more people wouldn't want to do it. Because I think it's really cool. You get to have such an impact on the community you're in, the interaction. I mean, we all get frustrated, right, if we're going too fast and it's our own fault, or we roll through a stop sign and you guys are there to correct behaviors or something like that. But you guys aren't looking to create havoc for people. You really want to interface with people, make it, and you're keeping people safe, right?
Right, and I will, sorry to interrupt you, Chief, but you mentioned community. When we, after the big events, I'll say, Ferguson and the list goes on and on, right? Where this villainization kind of started, we as a collective law enforcement body in this county had people coming into our lobbies almost daily saying, hey, thank you, bringing, cookies and stuff, So the community support in Livingston County is bar none the best in the state, I think. And I would put it really up against anybody in the nation. We have a community that gets it. We really do. very, very, very supportive. And that makes a huge difference when you're doing your job, right? When you feel appreciated, when you know that you've got the public support. Now, that said, I remind my folks, and I'm sure the chief does too, listen, we're only one screw up away from damaging that reputation, right? Damaging that support. So don't be that guy, don't be that gal that ruins it for, for the agency, for sure.
We just had that conversation. So with the entire department, you got to just make sure that people understand what the true implications are for doing something that you shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm. So do you talk about that amongst yourselves? In addition, do you generate ideas, create ideas, innovate to continue the momentum in the community, the goodwill?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that makes Livingston County unique is we in the public safety profession, not just law enforcement, but public safety, we meet once a month. And again, I don't know of very many counties that do that. And we all know each other. Sometimes that creates a little bit of problem, right? Because we know each other too well. But at the end of the day, as long as the public doesn't see that, life is good, right? We just work very, very, very well together, and we do bounce ideas off each other on a regular basis, right? What is best for not just Brighton City Police Department or the Sheriff's Office or Fowlerville Village? What is best for us? Because I think everybody truly gets that we are all in this thing together as a county, right?
That's great.
And I would say, 6-8 years ago when I started going to these meetings, these monthly meetings, I didn't quite get that. And now, after time has gone by, I realize really how much everybody works with each other. 8 years ago, we didn't have multi-agency teams. We had one in the county. That was it. Now we have multi-agency teams. We do pretty much everything together. Yeah. If we need assistance, we call anybody. It doesn't matter. It's not just, send me Green Oak because they're the closest. It's send me somebody that has a patch because I know that they're capable, they're good officers, we all get along. So it's, like he said, this is the best in the state that I would agree with him, and probably the nation, because we do all get along that well.
And it's imperative because at the end of the day, the public doesn't care, right? When they call for help, they could really give a crap what patch is on there, right? They just need help. They don't care if it's a fireman. They don't care who it is. There's your little dig on firemen. All they do is sleep and wash their trucks. But anyway, throw water on a fire, whatever.
Well, we got to be fair. We do have a nice fire department here around the county, and that's why we can take shots.
Schedule for next week?
That's why we can take shots at it, right?
I would just say this: I know all the firemen out there would be very disappointed if they didn't hear me have a little dig, and I certainly expect that to come back when they're on your show for sure.
Well, yes, I love the rivalry between the two, because they do have to work hand in hand. They got each other's backs, but it's fun to see the rivalry between the two. Hey, for people that don't necessarily understand, you got badges, you got guns, you got police cruisers, but what you guys do are very similar, but it's very different in the sense that, Rob, you've got a city that you're within, and Mike, you have a much bigger territory to cover. Could you just explain maybe just little differences and how you guys have to patrol, police, and work within those communities?
Elected, not elected.
Well, that's going to be a follow-up question, right?
That's one big difference. The way things work in Livingston County is this: my office and the state police work very well together, and we take care of those areas that are what's called unincorporated, right? So those areas that do not have their own police agency. There's 9 police agencies in the county, and those areas that don't have a dedicated police force, that's what we take care of. Through our central dispatch, which again is kind of unique, there's only one in the county, that when a call comes in, they determine who gets that call by that jurisdiction. So if it's Brighton City obviously is the lead agency. And then if it's outside, then it's either us or the state police, and it would depend on who's closest and who's available. So that's kind of the 10,000-foot view on how that works. So,
but the whole county, how many square miles are we talking about when you think about how big a patch you're covering?
560-ish.
So 500 plus miles that you've got to cover, and
3.5 for us.
Yeah, and I was going to say 6, but yeah, 3.5 for the city, and so sometimes are the interactions different, or I'll say the clients, but our community is. It's not as rural as it does.
No, I think if you go into northern Livingston County, you're going to have more residents, people of the county. Even the western side, it's mostly just residents. You come here, you have a lot of people that travel to the city to shop, work, eat, do whatever. Our bars downtown, they keep us busy, especially on the weekends, the day before Thanksgiving, keeping us busy. So they bring on different challenges that maybe other departments don't have to deal with. It's a lot of the retail as well. We have a lot of retail, but there's retail starting to grow countywide regardless. But they bring on challenges too, especially, people coming here for the opportunity to steal, commit crimes, whatever the crimes may be. But they come to the city of Brighton because we're centrally located.
I think people often overlook that with the
north,
freeways,
south, east, west.
right?
They get on the freeway and they're gone. But I will say though, it's been fun. It brings different challenges. Prime example is right now I've got one of my officers that is doing security assessments for some of our businesses because we're worried about the smash and grabs. So he'll go in, knock on the door and say, hi, this is who I am. And trying to, basically put the cart before the horse, basically, and you have to do different things in cities to try and, basically deter crime, and it's challenging, but it's fun.
Sure. And they've got a lot of the festivals, obviously. Certainly with the chamber putting on an event pretty regular.
Quite a few.
There's one of the things that the chief mentioned that it's spot on is from the law enforcement side of the house, we police to the public's expectations, right? So the public, this is really, our job is really public driven. What is it that you expect from your law enforcement, right? Do you expect foot patrol? That can happen in Brighton City. That doesn't happen in Cohocton Township, right? Because you're walking 1.5 miles before you see the next house, right? And it goes on. So it's a different kind of policing, and that's I guess my only the thing that I don't like about the sheriff's office is the fact that we, as involved in the community as we are, we just can't do it like the cities can.
You guys, we're business people, right,
Yeah.
Relis? And I've been fortunate enough to sit on the Brighton Chamber here, and we got a phenomenal leader in Pam. But I know she says it, and I've heard it from other businesses here in Brighton, and I've seen it that both of you have been very supportive of the business community. We think of police, right? We think of speeders or tickets or or somebody breaking into your house. But you guys are both, and you mentioned it earlier about the security checks. You're both very involved with the business community, and can you just touch on that? Because I don't always see that in some of the other places that we go.
You need to be, at least for me in my position. I need to be because it's half the city. It's half the people that we serve. So you can't just do it over the phone either. You've got to put face to face to it. They've got to learn to be able to trust you, and by building that trust, you learn how their business is run. Some of the ways that we can help them, and that's really what it's all about. We want to make sure that they feel safe, and we want to make sure that we get enough information to be able to help them in the case of an emergency. So a lot of face to face communication is done.
Yeah, pretty much the same boat on our end. Obviously, we're spread a little thinner. Don't have the availability to have everything, kind of condensed like the cities do. But yeah, anything that we can do to help businesses. I mean, that's just, if you have let's face it, if you have good public safety, you have good schools, and you have good businesses, that's where people go, right? That's pretty simple. That's pretty simple.
We do our yearly surveys, and usually safety is number one. Safety, then water. That people want to be able to drink water and flush the toilet. Public safety is usually number one.
Could see that.
Yeah.
What other things could we do as a community to help make life easier for you guys and support you? Is there any? I'll use the term magic bullets out there that we could use. I mean, funding's always important, right? You got to have this support of the funding. Mike, you answer voters. Rob, you're the city manager and work with the city a lot. What else could we do to?
You know, I think the most important thing that anybody can do is just simply say thank you, right? When you see the cop on the street, doesn't matter what patch, doesn't matter what uniform, you know, where they're at, whatever. I just think a simple nod, like we do our veterans, right? Just thank you. We didn't get in this job for the thanks, but we, and really not so much in this community. I mentioned that before, but you know, you see it certainly statewide and nationally. Getting kicked in the teeth. So just a simple acknowledgement, you know, thank you. I think that probably is the best thing that anybody could do.
I would agree. And then, I mean, if I was going to add anything to it, be kind to your neighbor. Just, you know, the people you see on the street, not only us, but just be kind to your neighbor. And that seems to solve a lot of problems when neighbors and just people in the public generally just get along and respect each other.
Uh-huh.
And we've been fortunate with Livingston County that we've got a really good county where people seem to get along. But be kind to your neighbor.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, your guys take calls, I'm sure, all the time, just like my guys. You know, hey, my neighbor's doing this. Well, have you talked to him? Well, no. Dude, don't call the cops. Really?
Just go talk to him.
Go talk to him. Go talk to him. So he's blowing leaves on your yard or whatever. Goes, hey, pal. You know, I mean, somehow we've kind of lost that, right? Yeah. So somehow we're going to go fix that problem, and then we're the bad guys. And I can guarantee you that we never show up when it doesn't get escalated, right?
It's true.
So if you got two neighbors that have a little issue with each other, it's best that they can handle it on their own for sure.
Are you going to tell them to text them now?
Yeah, right.
Text your neighbor.
Text your neighbor.
Yeah, I always tell my kids there's a new type of texting out. It's texting with voice. It's called a phone call.
Right. That's funny.
That is. It's true.
Well, I think it's interesting too. I mean, your business is evolving, right? You guys have to change with the times. So we got, you know, smash and grab stuff, but I mean, that's always kind of been around. But there's cybersecurity crimes now that we've never seen before. There's all kinds of other things going on. I think we both have drone teams now, and we've got some. Any touch on that? Anything you guys are doing different to change policing or evolve with the times on that?
A lot of computer crimes training, cell phone training. You know, without giving every secret out, but you know, a lot of electronic device training to get our officers up to speed on how all that works and really how data is transferred. I mean, that's probably one of the big ones because everything's done electronically now. You know, if something happens here, you know, if I got a victim here, well, my suspect might be in, I don't know, Portugal.
Right.
But it, you know, whatever it was, bounced around 5 different countries, and money came out of this bank, went to that bank, and everything's digital now.
Yeah, it's made our job very difficult, and unfortunately, you know, we would like to think that we're proactive, and we can be proactive in some of our community stuff, right? But when it comes to the crimes, we can't be proactive because we don't know what the bad guys are coming up with next. I mean, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, the card readers at the gas station were a big thing, right? You know, it swiped your electronic footprint, and they loaded it on another magnetic strip, and you know, away they went, and the list goes on and on. 30 years ago when we hired it, who would ever thought that, right? We'd have been like, what? You can do what?
Yeah. What's an ATM card?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
On that data statement, what does where the data resides determine the governing?
Not necessarily. That's what makes it challenging, right? So, you know, we could have a victim in California call us because something was bought with their credit card in California but delivered here in Brighton.
Got it.
So, you know, it's just a worldwide issue.
So do you see the communication between the different departments getting better? I mean, we talked about Livingston County, which is fantastic, but in your situation that you just described, it's California and Michigan.
I think the problem is so big that we handle the smaller stuff, and the bigger stuff becomes more challenging. We might turn that over to a federal agency, but then we may not hear back ever, or we might hear back. You never know. But that leads on to a new challenge without a
Well,
doubt.
we see it because we offer a lot of cybersecurity with our IT, and we talk to our customers all the time about that. And it's funny that some people take it seriously, right? And others, oh, that won't happen to me. And you guys, our hands are really tied with that. I mean, there's so much of it going on, isn't it?
We just did our city insurance, and it's the first time I've seen it. Looking at an insurance contract was ransomware.
Right.
We're actually paying a policy for ransomware.
Yeah, and there's no police officer that can do anything about that. It's just it's so big, and like you said, you have it to California, you had to kick it up to somebody. Well, they're getting that from everybody around the country, and there's just no way of solving this. So, that's where it really goes back to the person, right? As we said, you've got to protect your house first, right? It's do the right things, manage your passwords, have the right stuff in place, and be the front line of defense, because there's only so much you can do afterwards, right?
And I would say maybe once a month you see public service announcements, whether it's WHMI or somewhere. We're constantly putting stuff out to people to try and let them know this is a scam. Don't get involved in this. Just reminders. Some of our our Brookdales, our Independence Villages, because they're prime targets.
Mm-hmm.
They really are. So we have officers stop by and drop off pamphlets. That's really what we can do. It's unfortunate.
Really, especially the quality of the phishing emails now.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, the quality is fantastic.
Well, and our victims are getting younger.
Yes.
That's the big thing that I would say. 10 years ago, they were usually older. Now they're getting younger because everybody's getting scammed.
So I've done ride-alongs with you before with both departments. How do I get to do a ride-along with the drone? Man, that looks pretty cool. Tell us about that. I'm amazed at that how you're using that.
So they're used, they've got a ton of applications, right? I mean, we found one of our first finds was a kid down in the Brighton rec area that had wandered away. Phone ended up dying, and he was out there almost overnight.
Wow.
And we were able to, we've got the capability of heat thermal imaging, and we were able to find him, and it was pretty cool, the video, because not only did you see the kid, so the drone pilot can guide the deputies in. Well, one of the deputies had a dog too, so you could actually see, as they got closer, you could see the dog and the deputy. It was pretty cool. And then of course they can walk them back out. But so that's one application. Obviously, one of the other things that we use them for is crash investigation. So you can fly a scene. There's programs now that are to scale models, so it helps out instead of the old-fashioned way where you had to, hey, Chief, hold that end of the tape, and I wonder, okay,
So you can render a crime scene.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, crazy. So
2D or 3D? Can you do?
On the drone, 2, but we have some capabilities, like if something happened in this room here, we could do 3D.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we use them for civic events as well. So we'll pop one up above the Barbecue Jazz Fest, and we can see everything. And you get it up high enough, you can really zoom in. You can see every part of that event, which is really nice.
Very helpful.
Yeah, they're a very. I'm not a huge technology guy, and I know that's bad to say because you guys you're all about technology. But I think for as easy as technology has made our life, it's complicated things in some degrees. Just like we were talking about a few minutes ago about the whole fraud and everything. But the drones, in my opinion, are one of the things that have probably the biggest, the newest, biggest, best thing to happen in law enforcement in a long time.
Yeah. Well, not only that, you can watch the video live too, which is kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting at home one day when my drone pilot was doing some training. He's like, "Hey, I just sent you a link." I click on it and it's live, so which is really neat.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I'm an admirer of both of you, and I think the leadership has been phenomenal for the county and the city when it comes to our policing. And but I'm always, when I have done the ride-arounds, amazed. I don't think people realize how many decisions you guys make in a split second. That when we play back that film that we look at, that we're, Les and I could sit here and say, "Oh, you did this wrong. You did this wrong." But can you talk about just that for just a second of how much it's got to process? I mean, I think like an umpire in a baseball game. I mean, how many pitches does he have to call, and he'll get 99 of them right, and he misses one, He calls
Right.
one ball a strike, and the guy's a goat, right? You know what I mean? In some ways, aren't your teams like that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's I think that's an accurate assessment. I mean, we get Monday morning quarterbacked pretty regular, right? But you know, at the end of the day, I think you hit the nail right on the head. If my folks can get it right 99% of the time, the Chiefs folks, we do get it right 99% of the time, and I would put that up against any profession, right? You know, and it's kind of funny too, because, you know, everybody watches an episode of Cops and they think they know our job, just like we watch an episode of ER and we're all doctors and nurses, right? We all went to school, so of course we know what teachers do.
Right.
So it's any profession. But anyways, my point is this: the men and women in today's law enforcement are better trained, better equipped than at any other time in the history of this profession. And are there times when we get it wrong? Absolutely. But again, I would put our statistics up against anybody's. And this is my mantra to all my folks, and especially my new hires. Listen, we're in the business where bad stuff happens, right? I mean, that's just the way that it works. I get that. And as long as I can understand why you did what you did based on the circumstances at the time, and it has a bad outcome, I'm totally good with that. I got you. I'm totally good with that. Got you 1,000%. Where we run into a problem is when I look at what was going on at the time, and you made the decision, or you chose not to make a decision, and it had a bad outcome, and I can't understand that. Then we got a problem, right? So that's how I run my shop.
Yeah, it's coaching and leadership.
I wouldn't. Everything he said is spot on, and really, it comes down to the people we hire. We hire good people, and it comes down to the training process that we have when we hire these people to get them to really learn the job. But the key is to also give them the resources they need if they don't know the answer, and putting people in leadership positions that can help them. So, and that's what I think. County-wide, we've been very successful with having very good leadership. When I say leader, I'm talking sergeants, road patrol sergeants, guys that are out there, guys and gals really that help steer the teams.
Yeah, because make no mistake, the chief and I don't do real police work, right?
I gave up my gun belt for a thumb drive. Yeah.
We don't do real police work. It'd be kind of scary if we were out there. I'm not gonna lie.
Just had this conversation yesterday.
Well, no, I think about that, and we talk about Monday morning quarterback, and Les and I are always working with our sales reps on their funnel, right, their pipeline and the prospects, and we're saying, what if you get 1 out of 3, you know, you're doing pretty good, and I think, man, if 1 out of 3 in your job, man, we'd be unemployed real quickly. We might be unemployed when we're done with this, anyways. But
might be the last podcast.
yeah,
Baseball, you're in the Hall of Fame.
right,
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what we tell our sales reps. Hey, you know, you're going to miss more than you get right, and 300, you're an all-star. You're in the Hall of Fame. You guys are in a business. You can't be right. You got to be perfect.
If you're 1 out of 3, you're on the news.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
exactly.
without a doubt.
Out the door,
Yeah.
for sure.
So,
Yeah.
hey, one other thing. And hopefully this COVID stuff goes away. And I don't want to get into the political things of that, of you know, where we're at with COVID and if it's still here or not. But I think people need to recognize we thank the doctors, we thank the nurses for all they do. But I think sometimes we overlook what you guys have to do with COVID every day. I mean, think about your interactions being amongst people every day like that. Can you talk about anything like that? Is it creating more challenges for you? Is it getting easier? Is it better?
I would say in the beginning it created more challenges because we were trying to figure out what we should be doing, you know, in order to keep our officers safe. But I would say we've got it down pretty good right now. I don't really know if we're doing anything different than we were doing, at least in my department. We're not really doing anything different than we were 6 months ago. We've got the protocols down, how we're making sure we're trying to keep everybody safe, but we can't control what they do out of work. So we do the best we can. We create the safest environment. Sorry, I don't want to tap, but we create the safest environment at work without a doubt. But you know, some of the calls that we go on to, you know, it's that's been a big challenge too. Do you respond to a medical in progress? You know, somebody's having a full arrest and they say they're COVID positive. So that's put a little, you know, it makes people think a little bit, but we're still doing our job.
Yeah,
and that's the key thing. Make sure we go out and do our job.
Yeah, so I would just say ditto what the chief said. I'll just throw my 2 cents in on the jail side of the house. That's been an interesting work through on that. Knock on wood, we've had 3 cases since 2000 in the jail. So my staff has just been lights out when it comes to protecting not only themselves but the inmates as well. And fortunately, we did a jail expansion back in the end of 2015. We opened up, and that has really allowed us to be able to quarantine. It gives us a lot more ability to move people and keep them distance, which under our old jail, if we were at the same capacity we're at today, we'd have a mess. And there's a lot of sheriffs that lost a lot of sleep, over the last couple of years, with inmates, and they had, 20, 30, 40. Ingham County, as a matter of fact, I think they were up to like 60 at one time. As a matter of fact, we took some of their prisoners so they could just literally lock down their jail to keep people from coming and going. So, my staff has been phenomenal on that end. So.
Yeah, we just take a tough job and make it tougher.
Right.
Exactly. Throw a wrench into it.
Yeah, hey, here you go. Here's another challenge. We do talk about challenges, and I think sometimes that can be negative, but what opportunities are there for you? What's ahead for us, or are there challenges you want to talk about? Is there anything out there that, staffing is probably the biggest one, and that fixes a lot of things, right?
Yeah, I think for my office, staffing and the turnover that's coming with retirements is probably going to be our biggest hurdle. But again, those opportunities, those challenges present opportunities. And as we talked about before, getting the right person. I'm in the same. I agree with the chief 1,000%. I've told my staff I would much rather have a seat unfilled than to get a butt in the seat and have it be the wrong butt, or to have it be a cancerous butt, quite frankly, because we've all seen that in an organization too. So getting the right people, getting them trained, helping them feel part of the community, so they're going to be a long-term employee, vested, and make this a profession. Career as opposed to just a job for a few years. And that's historically, that's one of the things that's changing in our profession. Historically, when you got into law enforcement, you hired in an agency and you were there for 25, 30 years, right? Now we're seeing some people that are hopping around, every 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Because again, like we talked about, you've got time, money, and training invested in them,
Sure.
And it takes a while to get that back. So, but I think if we do it right, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, it's, for us, it's smaller departments. So 5 years ago, we had, we're moving 5 years ahead now. We've had almost half our department retire or close to retire. So our succession planning is really, once I got promoted to chief, that was my number one job, succession planning, trying to get people into positions where they could start running this department.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest challenge with a small department, and keeping the service that the citizens of the city of Brighton still expect. Moving forward, I don't know if we have too many challenges with staffing right now, because we're doing pretty good. We have a few more retirements that are coming up, but hopefully we can get through that without any hitches. But and just making sure, perfect example. We talked about this at one of our meetings. We hired a guy with 1 year experience on, but really he didn't have any experience because during COVID things slowed down. So we're thinking we're getting an experienced guy. So just making sure everybody's getting them to the level where we're comfortable, and providing that service so we don't have those surprises, right? We don't want to be that department, right? So that's really about it for us.
Yeah, and I think to play off that a little bit, one of the things that can't be underscored enough is the brain drain when people leave, right? Our profession is unique in that, yes, there's things that we do routinely every day, right? You go take a crash report. I could write one of those even today, even though I haven't done one in a while. I could write one of those in my sleep, right? But there's those things that only come along, once every 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And when you have folks retiring and you have a very young department. I remember walking in, this is probably about 3 years ago, I walked into our squad room at shift change one day, and there was 4 deputies sitting there, and I think between all 4 of them, they might have had 6 years on the job, and that was my night crew, right? I'm like, holy crap. It's the brain drain is
It's real.
It is
It
real,
is,
and that's that's going to be a huge hurdle to overcome as well.
The multi-generational workforce, which is what you're talking about, with the different generations interacting with the different technology, and some people use the term aging out, but the retirement, those are all real challenges.
Well, and the different generations all are motivated differently.
Mm-hmm.
What motivates me is different than what motivates a 21-year-old.
Right.
So those are challenges too.
Yep.
How much time do I get off? When can I take my first vacation day, right?
Right.
Well, we're going to use that opportunity because we could go. I could go on forever with you guys, and I asked for a few minutes, and you guys have been gracious enough to give us a whole lot. But to prevent the brain drain, and we appreciate what you've done for our communities. What we're going to lobby with the county commissioners, and then Nate over at the city, that we need to push back these pensions and these retirements so that we get you guys for another 10, 20 years. We just can't let you leave here real soon. So
Yeah.
They're pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
They look to be.
I'm in for a while yet.
Yeah. I'm still young.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still too young.
Well, we appreciate your service. In all seriousness,
Thank you.
You guys are tremendous leaders there. You build amazing staffs. I mean, we've had interactions with the people at the top and the bottom, and Rob, we love Francie over there, but just the support staff. And
That's because she's
and
fellow
Speaking
Ohio
of brain
State.
drain, yeah.
That's because she's fellow Ohio State. So how did you feel on Saturday? Is it time for us to start asking questions?
Too soon.
Too soon. All right, sorry.
But you know what? Okay, we'll digress here. I did point out to my wife, I love the tweet that the Michigan State Police put out. Well, we'll give them some kudos that they said, please drive home responsibly, and if you're heading to that state in the South, take your time because your season's over with. And I said, it's stuff like that we can have a sense of humor, right? We can police, we can interact, we have a sense of humor, and then we can still have some fun with what we do. So that makes the rivalry.
That's good.
Appreciate
so
it.
Les, do you think we did a good enough job? Do you think they'll let us be grand marshals of the parade? Do you think we get to drive the cruiser up there and do
I'm
that?
going to let you run that program. I'm just going to try to get out of the parking lot safely.
It's all good. I'll call off my deputy I had sitting
Yeah,
here.
right.
I told him, I'm not sure how this is going to go, so be prepared.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your service.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
You know,
Thank you.
there's a lot of stuff we didn't touch on. We do it again, so maybe we have you back and
I enjoyed it.
do it
Yep.
again.
More than welcome.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Fellas.
All right. Thanks.